For today's vlog, I decided to pull this painting out of my closet because it really represents a really important reason that I work on art, and it's the ability to sort of like transfer emotion in a very safe way. And I think just by virtue of working on art by yourself in your own environment and sort of creates like a safe space for you to explore things that you're feeling that, I mean, when you really think about it, even with your friends and family, you don't want to be talking about how you feel sad. And, of course, there are people that you vent with and, people you get, um, that you can talk about stuff with. But I just think there's something really powerful about getting something out that, art provides you. And I think specifically with painting, I haven't painted in a really long time, and mainly just because it's honestly kind of messy and I feel like it's harder for me to sort of arrive at a finished work. I guess somewhat. I feel like if anything with painting, I think a lot of the reasons that I don't do it as much, I feel like I go overboard, like I work on it too much, and then it just becomes layers and layers of like muddy colors. And I don't know, I'm sure I'm probably way too hard on myself, but messy is a big part of it. I also just generally like the tactile nature of working with charcoal and pastel, which I've been doing over the past year. But I pulled this specifically out of my closet because my intention when I was working on this abstract portrait was specifically just to express sadness. It was January 2024, and it was January 2024, and I always do like a dry January. And so usually those are the times when you're not regulating your emotions. In that case, with alcohol or whatever the case may be, you kind of have to let it out in one of, in a more healthy way. And so I guess that was my kind of like my opportunity to just sit down and kind of address the fact that I feel sad sometimes. And it wasn't like a monumental depression. I feel like in the winter, I feel like it is pretty common, to sort of be a little bit more down. There's a lot less sun. It is more of a time to sort of retreat within. Everybody is sort of like in January in their own mindset, in their own space after the holidays where you're with a lot of people. So it just gave me the opportunity that I kind of just wanted to. And I think it was an opportunity to face a fear where I do fear emotion. And I think that that's about as honest as I can get about, that. I wish I could say that I'm, really good with expressing emotions, but I think that there's emotions that are harder to express than others. And sadness is one of those things that I think you never necessarily want to make part of your identity. You don't want people to feel like you're a depressive person to be around and all of those things. And so sometimes it just gets stuffed so deep inside that, it has nowhere to go. And so when I was working on this portrait, I had these wood panels. It's kind of just a wood panel from Jerry's Artarama here in Miami. And I did a little bit of palette knife on it, and I was working at the time. I loved this gosh, I'm already forgetting all the colors, but I think it's just a yellow ochre. And I liked the purple up against it. And yeah, and when I first started this one, it kind of did look like more goth and more like horror film. Like, I don't know, I feel like I tend to do stuff. I try to find beauty in my art, and that is kind of important to me to an extent. But again, in this case, the intention was specifically addressing kind of sadness that I wanted to let out. And I wouldn't say I necessarily cried, but I would say it was very cathartic. But then again, I'll cry watching a commercial, to be honest. So I mean, I cry all the time. Like my eyes are watering now, but it's just because it's really early. But Yeah, but it was very special for me in the sense that I feel like I did achieve what I was going after in that sitting, which was to just sort of transmute emotion into something. And I think that one of the lessons from this painting was that the thing about art that's really interesting is that that sentiment that I felt the second that I was painting this is still something that somebody looking at it for the first time would probably feel, or something close to it. And I think that's a really cool part about working on art, that I could, this was January 2024, so we're in May 2025, so it's been almost a year and a half. And you know, you could still look at this right now and, sort of capture that emotion, even though right now I'm just, having just a regular weekday, where I'm taking time to just do a small vlog and everything's going pretty much okay. And I'm not necessarily in a sad space right now, but I really appreciate the fact that this gave me an opportunity to connect with sadness, to express it, and maybe, allow somebody else to look at it and maybe feel sad for a second, which I guess, do I want to bring sadness into the world? I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that, but I think that's kind of the point, that I think human emotions are so complex, and tying emotion to your identity is something that can be like so powerful but also so serious. And so I totally understand how people sort of avoid emotions, but I also think that that's one of the most powerful things about working on art, is that you can almost inadvertently also, even though this was intentional and I did decide to paint my sadness in a portrait, and I am drawn to portrait drawing and portrait painting because I think the human face is so expressive that it can catch you by surprise sometimes when you're working on something, especially when you're not thinking about it, and then you get emotional and you feel sad, or you find beauty, and you see a face that may look familiar when you're drawing or painting. And I just think that that is why sort of like working on art, even if you're not the best artist, is so important, because there's so few instances in life where you can connect with your own emotions in a way that is healthy and safe. And once you let it out, there is a sense of a catharsis, and there's also a sense of accomplishment with that. And I think that over time, normalizing emotions like sadness or even anger and different things that are much more difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis, I think that that's sort of the value in just having an art practice that is just for you. And again, this is at this point just sitting in my closet, but when I shared it as a short not last January, but the January before, it did sort of get really nice engagement, to the extent that people are like, I hope you're feeling better and all of that. And I was like, I mean, I wasn't like depressed going in like somebody had died and I was painting that sadness. It was more just like a sadness that I had deep inside, that just I didn't have a place for it. And so this is the place that I put that sadness on that day. And it is something that now I find beautiful, in the sense that, it may not aesthetically be beautiful, but it's just great because it just really represents the beauty of an art practice that is very intimate and that is only yours, and that can be a conduit for human emotion and expression, and at this point connection, because I think that sharing it is what actually makes it art, and makes it something that can be whatever it was to you when you were working on it. When you share it, it becomes that for the person that's looking at it. So I think that that was just really important for me to share today. And I really just want to say I appreciate all comments and anything about my work, because I just really do feel that it's encouraging me to get in touch with parts of me that I'm not able to get in touch with in my everyday life. So I'm really grateful for the ability to share that with you. And maybe I'm not going to be painting that much, but still, just sharing art is really powerful. And that is why I love doing these vlogs, because it just is that base of connection that just makes me feel good, almost just like working on this art. So if you've watched this all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to share more stuff with you.